singing what they call the names of God. And number one, we don't know what God is. And number two, we don't know who we are. So what are we doing? Well, we're trying to find out. That's the only thing that's required, is wanting to know. You know, it's as if we're born with glasses on of the wrong prescription. And we grow up seeing things a certain way, and we think that that's the way they are, right? And then somehow or other the prescription starts to change on the glasses through your longing and through your spiritual practice. The prescription starts to correct little by little, and you start to see things differently. Nobody could have told you that if they said, oh, you're just wearing the wrong prescription. You say, what are you talking about? Of course not. This is absolutely correct. This is the way things are. But then as the prescription changes and self-corrects, we see things differently. And when we see things differently, we act differently. Right? I'm reminded of a song, people are strange when you're a stranger. Faces get ugly when you're alone. And we all feel so alone and so afraid that people seem distant and separate and far away. And we have a lot of fear. But as those those lenses self-correct, we start to see things differently. And so we act differently. You could say it's also as if we were born in the middle of the night, right? And it stayed dark. So we grow up in the dark. And everything, we think that's the way it is, right? Why should we think anything else? Except every once in a while there's somebody says, hey, wait a minute, you don't understand. This is not the way it is. And you say, what are you talking about? Those are called saints. So we're born in the dark and we grow up in the dark. And we learn to relate to people in the dark. And we look in the mirror and we see a very dark face. But then the sun starts to rise. Just the slightest little bit of sunlight comes on, up. And all of a sudden, everything looks different. The trees, the forest doesn't look so scary. It looks green and beautiful. Those shadows in the corner, they're just people. And so we relax. Well, this is what happens when you start doing some practice. When you start searching for whatever they call it, truth, God, self, the one. The real changes happen inside. And it's really not about what we experience, how we see our experience or evaluate our experience during the day, every day. It's about doing a practice over a period of time and allowing our hearts to soften. He's got a bad cough. Anybody have any cough medicine to relieve the suffering of this individual? I brought something for you somewhere. Take one of those. You'll wake up in 3 days. So yeah, that's what it's like. And can you imagine the patience that a saint has when they have to deal with us? You know, it's amazing. My guru, Maharajji, Neem Karoli Baba, was so kind, so compassionate, so patient with us. We didn't know which hand to eat with. And he was just so sweet and so kind to us. He said, their hearts are pure, they can do whatever they want. And he let us cook food in the kitchen. The prasad that was given away in the temple, he let us cook. That didn't happen anywhere else. He used to say to us over and over, Ram Nam Karne Se Sapura Hojata. From going on repeating these names of God, everything is brought to fullness. Everything is made complete and full. It's a very interesting statement. All our karmas are fulfilled in some way, and the things that we need come to us, and the things that are going to be problematic, they disappear from our lives. It's the power of the name. Anybody, anytime anyone has a question or anything to say, you just raise your hand and you will be removed from the room. Go ahead. So let me tell you another story. You know about Ramakrishna Paramhans, the great saint from Calcutta, Bengal. He explained the way this practice of chanting the names works, and it's really cool, really cool. He said every repetition of one of these names is like a seed, right? Like a seed. And the seed gets caught by the wind and blown away, up in the wind, and it lands on the roof of an old house in the jungle. Those days, the roofs, even if they were made of clay, tiles, those tiles weren't really pakka, they were just dried in the sun. And so the seed gets caught between some of these tiles. And then it rains and snows and the sun, years go by and the tiles start to break up and get soft. At that point, the seed begins to grow, right? And the roots start to grow. Have a nice nap. And the seeds, they've heard this 40 million times. You can't blame them. It's like a lullaby. So, the seed of the name gets caught by the wind, lands on the roof of an old house, gets caught between the tiles. Then the tiles get soft over the rain and wind and snow and years. And the roots of the seed start to grow. Now there's many seeds, right? And the roots grow and they destroy the roof of the house. They keep growing. And they eventually destroy the walls of the house. Ramakrishna says that house is who we think we are. Our sense of me ego, you could say. Who we think we are. Everybody here probably thinks they're somebody. That's what they call illusion. And so, through the repetition of the name, that temporary structure of me is destroyed. And what happens is there's no longer any separation between inside and outside. It's just one. You don't disappear, you become one with everything. Now you might notice he doesn't discuss how you feel while this process is going on, because that's all part of the process. You have all kinds of feelings. You may feel good, you may feel bad. The point is that the repetition of the name is planting these seeds, which, according to certain causes and conditions, those seeds will start to grow, and they will start to dissolve this feeling of separateness. And it's this feeling of separateness from each other and from the universe around which our suffering revolves, orbits. So the real meaning of all these names is that place where there's only one. All of the names, they all do the same thing. They have different qualities, and different people are attracted to different names and different paths. But all these paths exist only to bring us back to ourself. Maharajji never talked about spiritual things with us. Probably because, there was no way we could understand what he said. One time an old lady came to the temple, one of the old mas from Nainital up in the mountains, and she said, "Baba, show me God." And he said, "Abhinema, jao." So later, at the end of the day, when the bus had arrived to take the people back to town, this Ma is coming up to pranam and say goodbye. And Maharajji says, "Mama, come here, I'll show you God." "Not now, Baba, I have to go home." This is the kind of devotees that he had, And the Westerners were very special in this regard, very special. He said, you've heard of Ashtanga Yoga, right? Yeah. We were capable of only Panchatanga Yoga, the five-limbed yoga. Gup, Ghumne, Khane, Pine, and Sone. For those of you that don't understand, gossiping, wandering around, eating, drinking, and sleeping. This was our yoga. And he was fine with that, he didn't care. He loved us and loves us the way we are, as we are. He never demanded that we be anything else or act in any special way. Really. And we were completely crazy, you have no idea. every once in a while he would just go, this Western. And he would laugh. But when it came down to it, he said, their hearts are pure. You know, most of us at that time, we were in our early 20s. Some people, some of them were even teenagers when we came. We had hardly lived, you know, we didn't have a life. And all we wanted to do was sit and stare at him. That was our practice. Because for us, all the beauty in the whole universe was wrapped up in that blanket. And we couldn't bear to take our eyes away from it. He would say to these Indians, he said, you badmashis come here for yourselves. He said, look at these people. They come here only for God. We didn't even know what he was talking about. We didn't think about God. We just... You know how you fell, when the first time you fell in love? If you've ever fell in love. I'm not going to even, this is India, I don't know what the hell happens here. And I'm not even going to guess. But in that other country, America, you know, you fall in love and it's like, you know, for like 3 days. But with him, it never changed, right? And as soon as our minds and our stuff kind of brought us away from him, he would like hit you with a banana right in the heart. And you'd look up and go. He knew exactly what was going on. And he kept letting us back into that room where love is. We were locked out of that room. We had grown up in a culture that was so closed and so dark in so many ways that we had lost we didn't believe that love could be found. But he changed all that. And when I'm talking about love, I'm not talking about romantic love, which is fine. But I'm talking about that love that doesn't come and doesn't go, that you don't fall in or fall out of. The love that's always here, that's our true being, always here, right now, always here. But we're turned away from it. We're turned away from it. So all the practices we do are designed to turn us back, bring us back to ourselves. That's all. No matter what practice it is, that's what it's going to do if you do it right. He used to look at us and go, and we go like, what did we get busted for now? You know, because he knew everything, right? So was it something I did, or was thinking I'm doing, or gonna do later? You know. So he said, Bhama, what does this mean? And he goes, what does that mean? He said, many names, many forms, sub-ek. Sub-ek, that's what he said all the time. That's where he lived, in Wonderland. Wonderland. So as we plant these seeds by chanting the name, by doing practice, any practice you do is planting that kind of seed. Doesn't have to be japa, it doesn't have to be kirtan. Any practice you do that you don't do for some gain, for your ego, for your pride. That plants a seed. The trick is that it's hard to know that. So these are recognized practices that have been done for thousands of years. You can pretty much trust that they work sooner or later. People always come up with new wrinkles on the practice. You know how many types of yoga there are now in America? 40 billion types. Everybody who was once a gas station attendant now has their own yoga school. Or is playing kirtan like me. I never was a gas station attendant, but if I wasn't singing kirtan, that's what I'd be doing. I'm qualified for this and that. That's it. Ram Nam Karna se sab puro jat. He said it over and over and over again. 40 years ago. And I've been thinking about it for 40 years, and I'm still trying to understand what he's talking about. Any questions or anything? I know Indian people are not shy.
I just want to ask you about when you are in this process, like when you read about these beings like Neem Kirul Baba or Shirdi Sai Baba or Ramana Maharishi. The thing is that after reading them, you want to bring certain change in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
You want to just rewire something. And then you think that, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, to bring a little bit of change in me. And you're successful for some time. But slowly again you start evaluating yourself and you see how slowly these things have creeped back into you. Things what you wanted to get rid of, they've slowly creeped back into you. Yesterday, when you said that chanting these holy names, the one who keeps evaluating yourself, he suddenly disappears.
I didn't say suddenly.
After a time.
Uh-huh.
So till such a time happens, or that day ever comes, how do you deal with this mental agony? Because it becomes mentally tiresome process, trying to change yourself. So how do you deal with it?
Well, don't try so hard. That's part of your personality, is trying so hard, right? You just do your practice and live your life and try to become a good human being. And not think about yourself all the time, because everything you just said is you thinking about you. And you think that's necessary. It isn't. It's just a habit that's very hard to break. Because we're taught it's necessary to be on top of everything and understand everything and evaluate everything. But that's exactly what has to go. You have to go. Ramana Maharshi also said once, he said, asking the thief to be the policeman, there'll be a lot of investigation, but no arrest will ever be made. So you're asking your mind to get rid of your mind. Can't happen. You find a practice that works for you, you do it for a few minutes every day, and then try not to beat anybody up, including yourself. You see, some of this, it's from doing the practices, we get the strength and the perspective to allow ourselves for our hearts to soften, even towards ourselves. All the tension in your voice and in your attitude, you think it's up to you to change. That's like, it's impossible. It's up to you to make the decision to do some practice, to try to find out what this path is all about. But it's not up to you to drive the car around. You're a passenger in your own car. So you sit quietly a few minutes every day and practice letting go. And just that little bit of practice will gradually spread out through your life. And it'll change the way you react to situations that arise, little by little. There's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts at all. You have to commit to being here on earth with the rest of us, just the way you are. And inside of you is perfection. All the love you seek, all the truth you seek is not only inside of you, it's who you are. So where are you running to? Right? So you have to gradually notice that it's your own attitude, your own program that's grabbing you so strong. If you can think it, it's not who you are. You know, if you can feel it and be aware of it, it's not who you are. So there's an ability to gradually release it. But in order to get the strength to release it, it takes a little practice, a little calming the mind through japa, through watching the breath, through reading the holy books and understanding the words, hearing the words of the saints. And also doing good, thinking about other people sometimes. You know, we don't like to do that. It's scary. We want to make sure we have everything we need first and hold on to everything and have all blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, the bigger you build that wall, the harder it is to take it down. So you just have to chill, relax. Where are you going to go? Huh? Even if you got in a spaceship and went to Mars, there's no TV. Kya karega? So you'll be on Mars and you'll be exactly the same as you are now. So what's the sense? Be here now. Don't always be thinking about what's going to happen in the future, how will I be, how can I get this, how can I change? That's a program, you know? And maybe that program will lead you to some teacher or some teaching, or it got you here today. Maybe somehow you'll allow yourself to slow down. But you realize how hard it is. We're brought up in a world where it's all about more, faster, 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 holding on, me, right? Everybody around us. To go against that, to go try to develop another attitude and move in a different direction, even wanting to do that is a really big thing. So give yourself some credit for that, you know? That's a really tremendous, that desire to overcome this programming and find some peace is also a result of your own karmas coming to fruit right now. Your own karmas making you aware of this situation. Without awareness, no change can happen. And you only become aware if you have the karmas to become aware. The guy who grew up in the house next to you, yeah, he doesn't have that. So, eventually when we meet people who are not on the path, so to speak, that opens our hearts even more. Because we see the suffering that they're going through, and they don't know there's any way out. You know there's a way out. That's a really big thing. Humongous thing. So give yourself some credit and relax. Take it easy. Don't be in such a hurry to go nowhere. You know? When it's all over, you'll be here, just like this. Just like you are now. But all this won't be working. That's all. Only difference. But to get from here to there and here, you have to relax. Do a little practice every day. It's called disinterested practice. Why does it mean disinterested? Because you do it and you're not like making a checkbook. Yes, I watched my breath for 13 seconds today and I only had 4,362 thoughts. Who cares? Just relax a little, carve out a little space every day just to be quiet. You and yourself. You can find 5 minutes. No matter what the world, even if the house is burning, it won't fall for 5 minutes. There's 5 minutes there. And if you can't do that, then you have to try to figure out why you can't. Then you don't want it enough. That's okay. Don't beat yourself up. That's just another program. Be who you are, and within that, try to become a good human being. You know, my guru never spoke to us about spiritual things. He never told us to meditate. He said, remember God. He said, love everyone, serve everyone, and remember God. Remember God is japa. Do a little japa. But basically his teaching was, think of others. It made no sense to me at the time. Now, it makes almost no sense to me. But a little bit. Because we're programmed only to think about the whole universe in relation to me. How am I now? How is it now? How is this working? I am the center. I'm the most important thing in the universe. This is the cause of all our suffering. That me that thinks and wants to feed itself constantly with all kinds of pleasures and all kinds of distractions and wants all kinds of feedback from the outside. Feels better, nicer shirt, nicer this, everything like that, you know. So it's okay, no problem. Just find a way to slow down every day. Even 2 minutes. We have to develop a way, 2 minutes to just break that flow of craziness that we live in. That's all. You have to start where you are. Listen, if we were supposed to be in caves, there's no way we'd be in Mumbai. None of us. So we're here, and this is where we have what we have to deal with. And just a little slowing down feels extraordinary. Believe me, just a little bit. ठीक? Anybody? Oh, there's a hand. Uh-oh. Hi.
Hi. Just in continuation to what you said, when you're trying to, I'd attended your session last year. Should I stand?
No, you don't have to stand, as you wish.
It's really helpful to me. I would say a lot of times it happens that you see somebody suffering. You just mentioned about that.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go and you're trying to convince the person and get the awareness in,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes they're not ready to open up and take that step.
Mm-hmm.
Once they take it, I'm 100% more than that person sure that the person will get the satisfaction, the happiness which I get doing
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
whatever I do to
Mm-hmm.
get my peace.
Mm-hmm.
In those cases, how do you do that? You are very concerned about somebody, you want the person to take that leap of faith, they're not ready to do it.
Then?
How do I go about it?
You can't. If they're not ready, they're not ready. They would, if you're doing it and you're feeling okay, there's some possibility they'll notice that you're feeling okay about yourself and not suffering the same way that they are. Then they might ask you, what are you doing? Then you can tell them. But if people aren't ready, they're not ready. There's nothing you can do. Nothing should be done. There's nothing wrong with not being ready. It just hurts.
Yeah, it hurts.
But unfortunately, it probably doesn't hurt enough. Or they're just not aware that there's any other thing they can do. You can try to talk to them a little bit, but you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you can tell them about the water. That's all you can do. And if a light doesn't go on in their heads, then it doesn't. There's nothing. That doesn't stop you from loving them and caring about them, but you also have to let them be who they are. It's not your job to change them or save them. They have to save themselves. And you can tell them what you're doing, And if they're interested, they're interested. If they're not, take them out to the movies. What are you going to do?
Yeah, thank you.
Back there, somebody.
Hi, Kitty.
Hi.
My name is Rishi,
Rishi?
and my question is there something called as destiny?
No. Yes. No. Yes. Define destiny.
It means no matter what efforts I make or what path I choose, I will land to a predestined place.
Define yourself. Right. So you're saying, so no matter, here I am, this is me. This is, I am me. And now, do I have any, is there any way to change? How do I know what's going to happen to me? And or is it all written and there's nothing I can do? Is that what you're saying?
I will be responsible for the way I go around, but there are things which don't work out the way you want to, and which makes you look for a cause.
Mm-hmm.
And time and again, people find the cause that maybe it's written in the destiny and that's why it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find a logical conclusion to what happened in your life.
Oh, you do?
You try to, you make an effort.
What a mistake. How can you find anything logical about life? Is there anything logical about this crazy stuff we live in? There's nothing logical. It's all like a big emotional stew. There's nothing logical about it. But they do say there is this thing called karma. Karma, first of all, the first thing they say about karma, only a fully enlightened being can understand all the workings of karma. Most saints, even great saints, can only see a little bit of it, maybe enough to help and do certain things. But the full scope of who we've all been for life, you know, they say we've all been everything to each other. That's one of the things they say. We've all been mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, lovers, enemies to each other from all the billions of births we've taken. So to think about trying to figure it out from our point of view, you know, it's like very severely limited point of view, because we're seeing only me, right? We don't know how I got here in the first place, so how are we going to know what's in the future? Karma is essentially the key to freedom. It isn't destiny that takes you where you don't want to go and there's nothing you can do about it. It's the actual key to freedom, because it says that your actions right now have a tremendous impact on future moments. Right now, have a tremendous impact. And it also says that everything that you are is already the result of all the millions of births of karmas that you have achieved. And that got you standing right there at this moment, asking this question, wanting to know what this is about. Unfortunately, I can't help you. Because I don't know. You know, I can only repeat some of the things that I've heard from people that I do believe know what's going on. And what they say is karma is the key to freedom, because you have choices you can make right now. You can kick the guy in the street, or you can step over him. You can make a choice about what kind of actions you're going to take in your life, what you're going to pursue in life. What we can't do is guarantee what the results are going to be. Nobody can guarantee the results. All we can do is take responsibility for our own actions right now as we see them. Now, that's the key, is as we see them. We can only do the best we can, which mostly we don't do anyway. We just kind of say, fuck it, I'm going to do something else. So to take responsibility for your actions is already a big thing. Sometimes it's very painful to recognize that your own actions, even in this life, seem to have created so much suffering for yourself and others. All you can do at those moments is surrender to that and make a vow to act differently and not be so selfish. But the point is, like some people say, I have free choice. I can smoke cigarettes if I want. Yes, you can. But if it was really a free choice, why would you do something that's guaranteed to give you cancer and cause you suffering? So you see, even that choice isn't free. It's already programmed by so many things. There must be so much self-hatred in that person. That person must have so many programs about being afraid to live, opening up, living a full life. And so they're doing things that they know, it's been proven, are going to make them gasp for breath as they get older. But oh no, it's no problem, I can smoke. Yes, you can, but why? So that's the situation we're all in. All of our choices, all of our desires, we're already in this river that's flowing down. We're not standing still. So it's very hard to get to actually understand what's going on. All we can do is the best we can. And you learn from, I'll use the word mistakes, but I don't really think there are mistakes, but you learn from making choices. You see what choices bring more suffering and which choices alleviate suffering. That's all you can do. But in order to do that, you have to kind of learn to trust your own heart, which is almost impossible. Because we're floating down this river, we're going under, around, the tide is taking us, the waves are, we don't know what's up and what's down. How do we make a decision? So you have to really listen to yourself. What do you want? I once asked Siddhi Ma, who is Maharajji's great devotee, I said, Ma, should I meditate? And she looked at me, she said, Krishnadas, in 40 years with Maharajji, not once did he ask me to meditate. He said, just do japa, Ram Nam. But he never asked me to meditate in the sense of trying to cultivate these higher states of consciousness, And she said that Maharajji said, when a person is ready, these states will come naturally. So the point is, so I asked her, my question was, Ma, should I meditate or should I sing? And the idea being that I couldn't imagine that singing was good for me. That was the point of that. And then when she said that, I realized, oh, right, I'd rather sing. And singing is what I do. And singing is what I want to do. And Maharajji never told me to go forth and spread the gospel of kirtan to the world. Never. I had to start singing because I needed to. So when I sing, that's what you feel, that's what I feel. I need to sing to save my heart. That's what I do. I know that's what I want to do, so that's what I do. So you have to find out what's important to you in life. And then according to what's all the forces that are working in your life, figure out what to do about that. If you have a family, you can't run away from the family, and nor there's a reason to do that. But there's a way to find yourself wherever you are, in whatever situation you are. That's what you should be thinking about. It's all very fluid, you know. And even if it is written, all the changes you make to your life are probably written in it too. You know, you don't know. It's not hard and cold and anything to be afraid of. You are creating your life right now with decisions you make. But as I said, those decisions are already being influenced by so many things. So it's very difficult to really get in there and see what's really important to you and how to be the person you want to be. Because if you don't trust yourself, who will you trust? Where will you go to find the answer? 20 people might be telling you the answer, but you don't trust it because you don't trust yourself. That's what you have to find. And guess what? That's all you have to find. Don't smile so much. Okay? Take. Somebody?
Namaste, Krishna Das.
Namaste.
Hope you slept well last night.
Ah,
Did you?
I haven't slept for a week.
Okay. Hearing you talk and over your online speeches, my name is Yash, by the way.
You what?
My name is Yash.
Yes.
Yeah. So my question to you is based on your speech or whenever you talk about your guru, Maharajji, your descriptions, your emotions are really very deep. So the question I need to ask you is, what is the importance of having a guru, a personal, I won't say a personal guru, but that's
And impersonal guru is also good.
no. Let me articulate it better.
Computer guru is also good.
See, you came half a world away looking for a guru, and you were lucky enough to find one. We live very hectic lives in a big city, and doing what you did probably in the 70s is maybe a little tougher right now. And yet, the relationship that you have with your guru is seems to be pretty indispensable on your journey. What would you recommend for us?
I'm dispensable. He's not.
No, that's what I said. A guru is
Yeah, yeah.
indispensable
Yeah.
on the journey.
Mhm.
Obviously, it seems with a guide, your journey is obviously much more accelerated than otherwise.
That's what you say. How do I know?
No, so
I don't know if that's true.
I imagine that with a system of yoga like say Ashtanga or something, which is more technical,
Panchatanga.
that we can do.
I took that. Then do. If you can do. That's the yoga I was taught to do. Panchatanga yoga.
I think that all of us can do pretty easily.
Ah, not so easy. You might want to be spiritual. That will ruin everything. You can't do Panchatanga yoga with any aspiration. Aspiration ruins everything. To do it completely, you must just enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So am I getting my question across?
Unfortunately, you are, yes.
What should we do? Like, is it something that with a practice like Kirtan, which you can do alone anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
do you still recommend? Would you still suggest it's a good idea to have a person who's further ahead than you, guiding you?
Guru is guru. Guru is not a teacher. Guru is not a human being. Guru, God, and self are one. That's what they all say. That's what they all say. You know, what are you going to do? That's what they say. Guru, God, and self. So your job is to find out what is this self that they're talking about. That's what we have to deal with. The God part, the Guru part, we don't know what that is. The self part, it's got to be in there somewhere, because it says it's self, not other. Right? It doesn't say Guru, God, and other are one. This is difficult for us because we don't love ourselves. We don't know who we are. We don't know how to slow our minds down. We don't know how to be good to ourselves. We don't know how to be good to others. We just think about ourselves all day long. We obsess about all our problems and all our desires and all our frustrations. And then 2 minutes a day we say, oh, if I only had a guru. It doesn't work like that, you know. You know, when my guru left the body, I went pretty crazy and I was running around the jungles, and I would go to see these babas and I'd say, I'm looking for my guru. And they would look at me like, your guru is looking out of your eyes right now. And I go ask somebody else, get the same answer. Guru, you don't find guru. If you have the karmas to meet a being who you recognize to be your guru, that's nice. That's what you needed. But everyone is in a lineage, everyone has guru and has had guru. And that's the way it works. None of us are orphans. We all have a lineage. What that is, we may not be connected with it right now in this life. But that doesn't mean that you're lost forever. But you don't look outside for a guru. You can't find a guru outside. I didn't come to India looking for a guru. I already met him when I met Ram Dass in America. Ram Dass is an American who came here in 69, I think. No, 67. And then he came back to America and I met him. I walked in the room. I heard about him from other people. So I walked in the room, and when I walked in the room, my whole life changed without a word being spoken. And when I walked in that room, I knew that it was real. It was real. They are really, whatever it is, it was real. And that, I didn't know what to call it, but it was real. And that changed my life. Because, you know, we're talking about the early 1960s in America. There were 3 books on this stuff. You know, Gospel of Ramakrishna was there, Autobiography of a Yogi was there, Zen and Japanese culture was there, Yoga for Health or something like that, that was also there. There wasn't books. There wasn't a yoga studio on every corner. There wasn't a meditation center in every block. So, the Guru lives within you, as your true being. That's what you need to find. And as you move towards that, things may happen in your life that you don't expect. You might run into somebody who has a few things to say to you. But external guru is not necessary, because it's only us who are attached to our bodies and identified with our bodies and our senses that think in terms of internal and external. They don't think like that. So you're asking for somebody to show up the way you want them to show up. And if they did, you wouldn't recognize them. They will show up the way they have to show up for your sake when it's time. But that can happen inside. It doesn't have to be a person in a body that you meet. that body, Neem Karoli Baba's body, is apparently gone, but he didn't go anywhere. If he wasn't here, I wouldn't be here. I couldn't live without him. So if he was gone, I would be gone. So that's the way it goes. So don't be lazy. Get your shit together and do some practice. And don't look for excuses not to do it, because that's all you're doing. And don't read books say, oh, you need a guru. Yeah, you'll go to a guru and he'll want 50 rupees only. You know? Maharajji wouldn't take 1 penny from us. 1 penny. There was one guy in the group who had a lot of money, you know, and he kept wanting to give Maharajji a donation. And Maharajji said, nee. He said, why do you want to give me this money? He said, all the money in the universe is mine. Even the money in America. And get away. And he wasn't kidding. You know, he really wasn't kidding. So don't be lazy. Don't get depressed. Don't get angry. Don't drink too much. But who's in there? You are in there. Find out what that is. How are you going to find out? That's up to you. And when you find that, you'll know what Guru is. It's not something that happens like this. I'll tell you a story. So back in the 70s, there were all these Buddhist meditation courses going on. Some here in Mumbai and in Bodh Gaya. And Maharajji had run away from us one year. The first year I was here in November. He disappeared. Nobody knew where he went. We were up in the mountains with him, and then he was gone. So we wandered around, and we wound up in Bodh Gaya. And there was a man, a great teacher, Mr. Goenka, who was giving these 10-day Vipassana Buddhist meditation courses. So since Maharajji was not around, and there was no TV to watch, we thought, oh, might as well meditate. What do you think? So a lot of us went to these courses, you know, we sat for 10 days like this. And then we'd take a break about a day, and then we'd sit we did like 5 or 6 of them in a row. So, well, that's a whole other story. I'll tell you that maybe. But anyhow, so then at one point, I think it was in the spring of 72, early spring, we were in Vrindavan. And we're sitting around with Maharajji's out on his tucket. And, you know, he didn't sit like this. He laid down like this, he laid down like this, like that, moved this way, moved that way. Anyway, so we would just sit like this and stare at him. So there was this guy sitting next to me like this. Right? And Maharajji looks at me and says, ask him what he's doing. I said, excuse me, but Maharajji's asking what you're doing. I'm meditating. Baba, he's meditating. Oh. Ask him if he wants to see real meditation. Excuse me. Maharajji's asking if you want to see real meditation. Yes. So he calls this devotee Gurdat Sharma. Gurdat, yeah, bed. Down karo. So Gurdat sits down just below him on the tucket, like crosses his legs, and he goes, boom. So he says, call him up here. So Maharajji wants you to go up there. So he goes up there. He said, hold his nose and mouth. So this Westerner takes and Gurdat wasn't breathing. He held his mouth for like 10 minutes, you know, not breathing. You see that? Yeah. All right, go sit down. So Gurudat's still out there, right? And Maharajji says, okay, Krishnadas, you and so, pick him up and take him into the room. He was stiff like a mountain. So we picked him up, carried him up, put him on the bed, and came out of the room. Maharajji gets up, goes in the room, and slams the door. And about 10 minutes later, they come out leaning on each other like two drunks, And they come and sit down. And Maharajji says, ask him if he saw that. Maharajji's asking if you saw that. Yes. Yes, he saw that. Acha. You want to see it again? Maharajji says, you want to see it? Yes. Gurudat. I swear to you, Gurudat went like this. Okay. Gone. Again, same thing. Hold his nose and mouth, try to push him. Couldn't move the guy. He couldn't move. He couldn't move him. He was not just rigid, but he weighed about 1,000 pounds. They couldn't move him. So he sent him back to sit down. And after a while, he asked me and this guy to pick him up again, put him in the room, and Maharajji went in. They came out. Now, this made a big impression on me. The next day, I had the keys to the Volkswagen bus. Ramdas had bought a car, and Maharajji took the keys away from him and gave them to me. So I had the keys to the car. And so Maharajji asks me to take Gurudat to Agra for some temple business, right? So we're driving along, and now I got him, right? He's right there. He can't get away. I said, Gurudat, could I ask you a question? Yes, of course. I said, do you practice meditation? Basically, I'm saying, what is it? How do I get it? Do you practice meditation? And he didn't say anything, right? And I'm driving along and I'm looking at him and he's not saying anything. So I guess I figure he's blowing me off. He's not going to say anything. Then all of a sudden he says, well, he said, I don't know how to answer your question, but all I can do is tell you a story, okay? I said, okay. So he said, when he first met Maharajji, Maharajji showed him such love and affection. I mean, he was always holding his arm, playing with his ear, playing with his hair, patting him on the head, talking sweetly to him, always holding his hand. That some of the older devotees, not the close ones, but people who had known, they like, who is this guy? Why do you love him so much? You don't show us that kind of affection. And Maharajji never said anything about it to them. And they kept on, this went on for some time. And there was one guy who was an old devotee of Maharajji and probably thought he was a very important guy. And he kept on ragging on Maharajji. One day, Maharajji was on the tucket, Gurudat was sitting in front of him, and this other guy, this other devotee, was sitting there. And the devotee's bothering, again, Maharajji, Baba, what is it with this guy? Why do you love him so much? You don't show us such love and affection. And Maharajji's playing with Gurudat's hair and pulling his ears, Maharajji's ignoring the guy, and the guy's going on and on. Finally, at one point, Maharajji looks at me and said, oh, you want to know? Yes. Okay, I'll tell you. Okay. I'm only going to say it one time, though. Say it. As Maharajji began to speak, at the very second he began to speak, somebody came to the door and called that guy. The guy turns his head to see who was calling him, and by the time he turned back, Maharajji was finished talking. The only one who heard him was Gurudat. And Gurudat told me that Maharajji said, not just this life, not just the life before, but life after life after life, we've been together. That's why this happens. I know it's hard to kind of wrap your minds around that. It's hard for me. Do we really know if there's reincarnation or rebirth? I don't. But some of the beings that I've hung out with, they live in that place where that's reality. I mean, it's hard enough for me to get through the day without running somebody over with my car. But still. And Mr. Tiwari, who was my Indian father, my best friend, one time he came to the temple. He'd been with Maharajji for 40 years. He comes to the temple, and from across the courtyard, he starts yelling at Maharajji. He said, "Why did you drag me here? I was happy at home. I had no intention to come. Why did you drag me?" Maharajji goes, "Hep, I dragged no one. But for 83 lives we've been together, it had to happen." What do you do with that? So, for us who are tortured by our thoughts and our emotions, who can't find any space in our lives or in our hearts to feel good about ourselves, these things are just huge. So we have to start where we are. Whether they're true or not, it doesn't make any difference on a daily level to us. We have choices to make all day long. How we're going to treat ourselves, how we're going to treat our families, how we're going to treat the people we meet. In order to get the strength and the perspective on our lives to become the people that we want to be, we must do some practice. We must. I hate to say it, but there's no other way. You have to do some practice. You can have all the blessings in the world, but if you don't know how to cup your hands, how will you drink? Practice is about learning to how to accept that kindness to ourselves that we're not taught. The gods don't live up in the sky. They live in the sky of the mind, which is inside. They're not somewhere else. Love is not somewhere else. It's not in somebody else. It lives within us as our own true nature. It's just covered up with a lot of stuff. So all we have to do is uncover it. It's already there. If it wasn't there, you wouldn't be here. It's you. You're it. But we don't know that. We have to experience that directly, and that comes from practice. From turning towards that place within. Whether it's from mantra, or chanting, or meditation, or seva, anything. It has to do with what you want, the longing you have in your heart, to get in touch with that. And you can include everybody. Anybody else? In the back?
I have two questions. The first question, yesterday you had said you were referring to someone who, when you were doing, when you had a performance in New York, and the person said he had not come to hear English. So you spoke about how it can be more effective if the language we use to still the mind is not one with which we think. So I would like to understand that better. My second question, I'll ask you both the questions and then you can answer them. The second
Maybe.
question is...
You're very optimistic.
Should I ask the second one already? All right. You know, most of the chanting you do is from the Hindu tradition. But I saw in the list you had this time that you had the Tara chant as well. So would you like to explain a little bit about it? I'm very fond of it. I just thought perhaps you can shed more light on it. Thank you.
I could shed more darkness on it too. The thing about the English is that, and for you it may not be English, but for New Yorkers, the point was that guy wanted to avoid his normal thinking processes because they brought him suffering. And so he had come there because he thought singing with me would help him avoid that. And what I was taking issue with was the idea of avoiding anything. That's all. You can't really avoid anything sooner or later. You have to deal with it. And I just laughed when I heard it because he was so intense about it, you know. He was so disappointed that he was going to be faced with himself again for another few minutes. And he wanted to escape. So it's not an escape. Chanting in Sanskrit or in Tibetan or in Pali or in Latin, these are not escapes. You know, they lead us back into ourselves, and with that strength we can then reprocess our stuff in a better way so it doesn't cause us such kind of suffering. That's what I was pointing out about that. But it also reminds me once when I was in Denmark singing, right? A friend of mine was walking down the street and she met this guy with another a Danish guy who had spent a lot of time in India, and he had jata and he was, you know, a big thing, and he was smoking chillums all the time. So she says to him, you know, Krishna Das is in town. Are you going to come sing with him? And he goes, he's just an American burger with Indian ketchup. Praise the Lord, huh? It's the greatest thing I've ever heard. I couldn't believe it. It's veggie burger with Indian ketchup. Unbelievable. So the Tara mantra. I've spent a lot of time with Tibetan lamas. You know, I love them. I just feel very close to them. And so I sing Buddhist mantras too, mantras from that tradition as well. Not as much, but sometimes I do. Especially when they ask me to sing. A lot of times I'll try to sing the Buddhist, although one Lama says to me, Namah Shivaya, my favorite. Because a lot of this generation of Rinpoches were born in Nepal. And the Nepalese, Buddhism and Hinduism in Nepal are very close. All their families have, family deities, Ganesh, Hanuman, Shiva. So they grew up with all that. They don't have a problem with that. So I sing that sometimes. And Tara's mantra is so beautiful. Tara is the female aspect of Chenrezig, who is Bodhisattva of compassion, who has vowed not to enter into final enlightenment until you and you and you and you and me are liberated. Every one of us in this room, that being, although he's qualified and ready to go, he's not going to go until we're going to go. Now, it's pretty hard to understand that because we are so self-involved and self-centered. We can't imagine what a being is like that is not self-centered. We can't imagine it because you can only imagine it with your self, which those beings don't have one. They've become, the universe is their self. It's a whole other ballgame. It's like someone asked the Dalai Lama once, Your Holiness, why does everybody love you so much? And he said, well, I don't know. Maybe it's because I spent my whole life thinking about and considering the happiness of others. I'm going to say that again. Maybe it's because I spent my whole life. What did you do this morning? My whole life thinking about and considering the happiness of others. There's no one in there concerned with their personal, so-called personal, how they feel today. The question doesn't arise in a being like that. The planet of me has disappeared, and all there is compassion. There isn't even anyone being compassionate anymore. There's only the force of compassion and kindness. This is inconceivable to us. And yet, this is where we have to go. So that's why I like the Lamas so much. They know how to, they really talk well about these issues of kindness and compassion and developing what they call bodhicitta, which is an open, enlightened heart in which everybody fits. There's nobody outside of that heart. And like my friend Sharon Salzberg, who's an incredible meditation teacher, she calls it a heart as wide as the world. I stole that for a title for my CD. But a heart as wide as the world. Everything is in it. There's nobody and nothing excluded. There aren't good people and bad people. There's just people in my heart. This is big time. This is really big time stuff. But that's what Ram is. What do you think? That's what Krishna is. The whole thing. There's not two things going on here. There might be a few different pathways to that same thing, but there's only one thing going on. Sat Ek. Many names, many forms, all one. That's what he said over and over. Anybody want to sing a little? You have a question? Okay, she has a question, so you can't sing.
Hi, namaste. You were talking yesterday of an experience that you had when was it Tiwari ji who attained samadhi in front of you. And I was just wondering, could you spread some light on, like, how was it? Like, what were you experiencing when he was going through that, and what were his physical symptoms, and how long was he in there for, and just a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I was pissed off. I told you, I was pissed off. I wanted him to teach me this prayer. And he couldn't stay out of samadhi long enough to teach me the goddamn prayer. That really pissed me off. You know, he was doing this his whole life. He'd been a yogi from early age. And his parents had died when he was very young, and he was raised by an aunt, and the aunt died, and he was raised by somebody else. And he had taken a vow at a very early age to remain unmarried and to become a yogi. And it was only Maharajji who got him married. One day Maharajji took him with him. They were traveling around, and they stopped at this house in Haldwani where the father of the family had just died. The mother had died long before. And everyone is being taken care of by this young girl. Maybe she was 18, 19. And as soon as they came, they went and sit in the living room, and this young girl came out. The youngest daughter came out and brought them food and fruit and water, and kept coming back and forth. And Maharajji looks at Tiwari and goes like, she's kind of cute, huh? I think she's really hot. What do you think? All day long, coming and going, he said, you know, look at the way she serves. It's so amazing. She's so beautiful. I think you should marry her. You know I've taken a vow not to marry. Oh, yeah, all right, yeah. Have you seen her? Do you know? It's like this. This went on, I swear to you, 3 days. 3 days. Because Maharajji said, we are not leaving until you agree to marry her. Tiwari said, good, then we'll be here forever. This is how he talked to his guru, right? They were so close. Every day. And one day Maharajji turns to him and says, you know, she's Joan of Arc reincarnated. Finally, he couldn't take it. Tiwari finally says, okay, you want me to marry? I'll marry under one condition only. That you write on the marriage certificate in golden letters, I, Neem Karoli Baba, take full responsibility for all issue from this marriage, and sign it. Good, then I won't do it. Good, then I'm not going to marry. So finally, Maharajji agreed to do that. I've seen the marriage certificate with the golden letters written on it. So they got married. Samadhi, right? You know. So one thing Tiwari said to me, he said, you know, my boy, I didn't achieve samadhi the first time until after I was married. And he gave me this look. Unbelievable. He was always going into samadhi. He would do puja. He had another guru who was also a very great saint in that area at that time, named Brahmachari Maharaj, who taught him all these pujas, which he would do. Shiva puja 4 hours, Devi puja 4 hours, you know, and on Shivratri they do like 4 pujas all night long. Ma would ring the bell and make the offerings, and Tiwari would chant the mantras. And his puja guru told him that he had to chant at the top of his lungs, and he had a voice like a chainsaw. All night long at the top of his lungs. One time we spent Shivratri in Chitrakoot, at Janki Kund in Chitrakoot, and they gave us a little room, and we were up all night doing puja. And in the morning, we opened the door. All the Babas in the ashram were standing outside like this. They never heard anything like this. This guy was unbelievable. Really. Everywhere we went, the Babas would pull me aside. He said, "You're really lucky to know him." He was the headmaster of a school. He didn't live like this. He was busy with the world. He was fully engaged. But, and when I was there with the family, he and I would sleep in the same bed, and Ma would sleep with the kids. 2:30, 3 o'clock, he'd get up, go pee, come back to bed, cross his legs, boom. I'd wake up, I'd look at him, I'd turn over and go back to sleep. Not once in all the years did he say to me, maybe you want to meditate a little bit? He never said a word to me, right? He had nothing to prove, right? Nothing to prove to me. He didn't need me to be any other way than I am, luckily. So he was always going into samadhi, and sometimes he'd be doing these pujas, and he'd just go into samadhi, and dinner would be ready, and the kids were waiting to eat, and they couldn't eat until he came down. So Mrs. Tiwari went to Maharajji, and she said, "What should I do?" And he taught her a way to bring him down out of samadhi, which he hated, obviously. But she could do it. She figured there was a way to do it. Mind your own business. First go there. First worry about getting up there before you come down. Right. So anyhow, so that's what happened. So he would go for any amount of time. We used to be driving along, we did a lot of yatras in India. We drove all around, and we'd be driving along, and there'd be some little Shiva temple on the side of the road. So the car would stop, he'd jump out and run in, and it was this linga, but there was like a foot of water all around, in the bottom of the temple, and there was all these things crawling around it. He'd plop right down in the water and start doing puja, and I had to do it too. Om Namah Shivaya. It was good for concentration. He was so great, He was so great. He would look at me, he would explain something to me, Because he seemed to really, I can't say he knew everything, but I never was able to ask him something that he didn't have a real response for. He would look, and so he would explain things to me, and then he could see the first word out of my mouth that I didn't understand, a thing he said, right? And he'd go, "My boy, is there something wrong with your brain?" It was so great being, they really treated me as their elder son. Even to this day, I am K.D. Tao. I'm the uncle. All the kids call me K.D. Tao. And I still have to go to all the weddings. Why do they have to play such loud music? Anyway, so, but as the years went on, he stopped. There's many levels of samadhi, different types of samadhi. Samadhi means merging the mind to one point. But there's many levels of that. And at first, when you enter into samadhi, you lose awareness of the outside world. And you think that's hot stuff. That's not so good. But gradually, you go deeper and deeper, and you can actually be in samadhi and still be functioning in this world and look like a regular person. And the highest samadhi they call sahaja samadhi, which is the simple, the natural state. which is when you're finished being everything you've ever thought you being, when that whole process of thought and the creation of more forms in your mind stops, you enter into your natural state. You know, the karma is like waves, you know. It's like there's some disturbance out on the ocean 1,000,000 miles away, but that wave travels till it reaches the shore. What caused it? We don't know anymore. All we know is we feel the wave. So even when you reach a certain level of awareness or freedom, the waves may still be coming. But you're no longer reacting, so you're not creating any more waves. So then it's only a question of time until no waves arise any longer. And that's what Buddha said at the end. "Oh, house builder, you'll build no more houses for me." There's no craving for anything anymore, even to exist. And so you're free. And in a completely very, very advanced kind of way. We're just trying to learn how to get through the day without killing somebody, you know? And that's good. That's where we are. That's what we have to do. It's nice to hear about all this stuff, but it can't stay up in here like an intellectual thing. Oh, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. Let me put you straight. Bullshit. It ain't gonna happen like that. Be who you are now. Everything comes from here and now, not some fantasy about what the future's gonna be. See what you are now. See how you are. See how you treat others. See how you treat yourself. See what you think about, what you obsess about, and add some practice into that so you can start to release those thoughts and those feelings. It's possible. It's totally possible. It has to happen. It's going to happen. And the sooner we get with the program, the better we'll feel. You wind up spending less time in heavier states of mind. But you don't notice that. Because the noticer, the evaluator, is not so busy. Through practice, you training yourself that way, not to be so obsessed with yourself. It's funny. The more attention you pay to yourself, the less obsessive it becomes. We want to get a vote, you know. We want to have some vote in how we go through the day. We don't want to be bouncing off of everybody completely unconsciously all the time, in total reactive mode, with no say. We want to vote about our lives and who we are. And we can have that. It just takes a little bit of effort to enter into some practice. It doesn't have to be a formal practice. You can start reading some holy books, read about the real saints and how they acted and what they said. Somebody back there? We have a mic, or they fall asleep?
Yeah, speaking of spiritual practices, your friend Sharon Salzberg actually said that the most important time of doing practice is when you're actually sitting down and doing it.
The most important moment is when you first sit down to do it, because at that moment you've stepped out of the obsessive compulsive flow of the day to enter into a moment in a different way.
Yeah, so supposedly you've been initiated into a practice, and for 15 days, 20 days, you're doing it effortlessly, you know. And on the 21st day itself, there's so much of mind stuff that's actually delaying that moment of you sitting down to do this practice. I don't know what it is. It's immaturity and understanding of what you're doing is actually going to save your life, or it's general laziness. It's how?
It's just tamas in one form or another. Some resistance in yourself, that's all. You can notice it. Don't judge yourself, because then it's adding insult to injury, you know.
But it takes a lot of effort back again to start again with that practice. So, I mean,
What are you going to do? What are your options? Don't do it. Those are your options. Do it or don't do it. Don't do it. You don't want to do it, don't do it. See how your life goes. When you need it, you'll do it. When you recognize that this is what you need, you'll do it. I didn't start singing until I was almost drowning. I was up to here. And the only rope that was being thrown to me was chanting. I didn't sing for 21 years after Maharajji died, because I was pissed off. And I was too busy being stupid and self-destructive. But when I finally realized that this is what I had to do, that's it. I'm doing it. I haven't stopped. I'm not going to stop. So, relax. Take it easy. Be stupid. It's all right. Really. You can't force yourself. You've heard this a million times. When a snake is ready, the skin falls off. It doesn't have to rip off. You can't rip the skin off a snake. You know what intellectually you're aware of what you want to do, but emotionally, you're not prepared to go for it. Okay, live with that. See how that feels. Who knows what will happen? What are you going to do? It's up to you. Do it, don't do it. It's up to you. Nobody's going to make you do it. And nobody cares if you don't do it, except you. When it's important enough to you, you'll do it. When it isn't, you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. Because you'd be doing it from the wrong place. I should be doing this. If my guru told me to go out and sing with people, it would be disaster. Because I'd be doing it because he told me to. My heart wouldn't be in it. Even if I wanted to please him, so to speak, and do his command, it wouldn't be like this. When I sing to save myself, to sing my heart, to be in that loving presence. That's what I need to live. That's just me. You have to find what makes you tick. There's no hurry, except that the clock is ticking. But don't feel bad. It has to come from the inside. It can't be a neurotic thing, you know. Oh, I hate myself. I want to get over this stuff. That's like trying to pick yourself up like this. There's no leverage. When you really want to overcome your issues, you'll find a way to do that. Really. It's not a bad thing not to do practice. But what got you here today? It's a beautiful day. It could be outside. Something brought you here. So that same thing will bring you to the next thing that's going to help you find who you are. It could happen anytime. It's no problem. has to be from here. It's hard, I guess, because, this generation of Indian people, maybe your grandparents were plugged in and still believed in something real, They were still part of that ancient tradition. But it's been a couple of generations, so it's kind of hard to understand what it means now to your life as it is now. It's very hard. I understand. It's hard to realize it's all about what's in here. It's not about what's out there, what's in the temples, what sadhus are doing in the jungles. It's about who you are, what you need to fulfill your own being, your own heart, make it feel right. It's a big thing. It's not easy. But there's a hunger for something. You just don't know what. But it's not outside of you. That's the issue. You can go shave your head and put on some nice silk sannyasi clothes and wander around, but you'll be you. Wherever you go, whatever you do, it'll be you. Might as well start now as you are. External changes don't really help that much in the long run. Don't have to change, you just have to be you. Maharajji never talked to us about renunciation. He knew we were totally incapable of it. He said, serve people. Love everyone, serve everyone, remember God. That's what he said over and over again to us. How do you love everyone? Everyone doesn't seem so lovable sometimes. But when you get a certain depth of awareness, you see that we're all the same. And you see everybody's hurting. Everybody's locked in their own world with their own suffering and can't get out. That brings up compassion in you. You start to feel for those people. That's a helpful thing. And it softens your own heart as well. Which is why you're all here listening to some Angrezi kirtanwala instead of in the jungle with some sadhu who's singing the same shit that I'm singing. Right? No? I guess you're dead. I remember I had a dream once. I was coming back to Earth, being reincarnated. And just before I hit India, I made a left turn and wound up in New York. I still can't figure it out. Jaya Bhagavan. Jaya means victory. Hail or hallelujah. And Bhagavan is the living presence within us. The love that lives within us. It's who we truly are. When we sing Jaya Bhagavan, we sing victory to our own hearts. May that love conquer all the darkness. Let's sing this together. Jaya Bhagavan, 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 Jaya If we know anything about a path at all, if we know that there might be a way to live in this world in a good way, with an open heart and without fear, it's only because of the great beings that have gone before us.
out of their love, out of their kindness, they left some footprints for us to follow. So in the same way that they wish for us, in the same way that they wish for us, we wish that all beings everywhere, all of us, be safe, be happy, that all of us have good health and enough to eat. And may we all live in peace. And that ease of heart, at ease of heart, with whatever comes to us in life. Shanti means peace. Peace beyond understanding. When we know who we are, when we live in the love that lives within us, then we are peace. May we all be that. Sham.